says the older we get, I'll be wearing less makeup and you'll be wearing more.
That is so true.
And that's one of her favorite
The
memories.
sense of humor of those guys, man. I like Roger Miller, all them guys. They were brilliant humorists. All the the guys that are on Hee Haw and everything.
Yeah.
They're just brilliant.
Yeah. So,
I'd take my hat. I'd take my hat
Whatever
off,
you
but,
want to
but
do.
I got to have hat hair.
No offense to your wife, but you look good either way.
Well, I've still got my hair and everything. I got this little salt, this little saltwater cowboy kind of a thing.
Yes,
I wear
sir.
my hat.
You
This is
love
my
it.
fishing. I wear this hat for everything at home. You can shape it. You can fish in
Yes.
it. You can do whatever you want.
I have one
so
like
I
that.
just carry it with me. Do it all.
Do you mind if I videotape
No,
it? If there's
not at
anything
all.
on here, if you don't want it, we'll.
No.
Okay.
Oh, this is great. So I've got a few questions for
Okay,
you.
let's do
First
it.
of all, here we are with you.
Wow.
Huge artist in the 90s, and with the 90s country making a comeback, you would definitely come to people's minds with a where have they been and where are they now curiosity. So
Yep.
where have you been and what are you doing these days?
Well, that's a great question. I left Nashville a few years ago, and I went up to Branson, Missouri, and I did a sit-down show. As old Mickey Gilley said when I got up there, I said, "Man, I kind of like Missouri up here." He goes, "Well, you tested positive for Branson," and I enjoyed it. I loved it. I was able to, I never done like a live DVD or anything, and since I had the theater and the lights and everything, so I took the time in Branson to sit down a little while and get some things, written and recorded without having to be on the move, and then my wife and I, Stephanie, we hit the road after that. After about 3 years, we started touring a little bit, and then we'd sold our house in Nashville and everything, and we were just kind of coming home to Florida and staying with my mom. And the more we stayed with her, the more we realized, she shouldn't be living on her own, because she was, 88, 89. She's 93 now, still with us, and it was time to move home. So the state of Florida inducted me in the Artist Hall of Fame, and it meant so much to me when that happened. I thought, this is a sign to move back home.
Wow. Well, I got to ask you, how does it feel to be considered classic country now?
I love it. It's what you wait your whole career to be. You don't want to be a one-hit wonder, right?
Nope.
Somebody said you're a heritage act. I say I had to look the word heritage up. I wasn't sure if that was a compliment or what, but it means you made it to the finish line, kind of, or that you kind of made it. You had a body of work that it would at least be, considered. And I had the perfect career. I mean, I had just enough of the success and everything, and also it was just enough that also afterwards that I had enough privacy and anonymity to have a regular life too, and we went to see the Elvis movie a couple of nights ago, and coming out of the Elvis movie, we started naming off the people like the big superstars that that had gone, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, who was the other one?
Kurt Cobain, even
your
Jimmy,
guys, Michael,
Jimmy Dean,
George
and
Michael.
Marilyn Monroe, George
And
Michael.
I told her, I said, man, I'm kind of glad I didn't have one of those careers, but it probably would have done me in too, So, life is sweet now. In fact, this new music I've been making is really it's really a message to people, while you're still young, if you're in your 50s or whatever, you're facing retirement, maybe retire early and come on down to Florida and enjoy your life, don't work it away,
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's a great message.
Well, of the songs you've recorded, now hitting their 30-year milestones,
Yep.
which ones kind of stand out or have a special backstory you'd like to share?
That's, this really good question too. The older I get, man, the lyrics of these songs mean something totally different now at this age, especially Only Here for a Little While, which was the very first hit I had, came out during the Desert Storm, war and everything, and just the way the climate of the country is and everything, how divided we all are now, it's that song, when I sing it each night, I'm going to hold who needs holding, mend what needs mending, pray what needs praying, we're only here for a little while, that really has a big meaning for me now in the climate of things today. Somewhere my broken heart, I've lived long enough to have several heartbreaking, moments, and And at that when, because this is the 30-year anniversary of Somewhere in My Broken Heart winning the Academy of Country Music Song of the Year, and I can't believe it's been 30 years. My goodness. So that, and If There Hadn't Been You is another one that, now that Stephanie and I, we've been together 22 years, that's the longest I've ever been in a relationship. And so, and I can definitely say, when it comes to like parenting and being a force in my kid's life, that song, Stephanie, I really think about her with that, because we've got two really wonderful kids now. We've got our first grandbaby now. My daughter had a little girl, so just to have made it through all of this, and COVID too. We were quarantined for a whole year. A whole year together. I was like, shoot, if we can make it through that, we can make it anywhere.
Exactly. Well, backstage and talk about things coming full circle. I want to talk about your big break when you were in college.
Yeah.
You were in the Wrangler Star Search competition and were a finalist, and the finals were held right here at the Grand Ole Opry.
That's right.
And would you share the memories of that and your thoughts of being here at the Opry today?
Yeah, I sure will, man. That was a really big deal, because when I was about 15 years old, my mom had brought me to the Grand Ole Opry, and she worked really hard selling Sarah Coventry jewelry, and she won a contest. And she knew that the contest was going to be here at the Opry. So when I won, when she won that contest, we came here, and that's when I got the bug, man. That's why I said, one day I want to be not up in the nosebleed section. I want to be down there on the stage. And so that really meant a lot. And so the next time I was here was that contest. Frances Preston, who was the head of BMI at the time, was one of the judges. Let's see, the other judge was Jim Reeves's wife, Mary Reeves. And my dad loved Jim Reeves, and I grew up listening to his music, and that was a big deal. So just through that contest, I made it into the top 10 and made it on the TV show. And Frances Preston at the time was like the most powerful lady in the music business. She found Chris Christopherson, Willie Nelson. She was the head of BMI, and I sat on a stool and sang a song, an original song. And she said, after it was all over, she came up to me and goes, "How tall are you?" And I said, I'm 6'4". She goes, "Don't ever sit down and sing again." And then Mary Reeves said, "If you ever come back to Nashville, my door's always open." And as soon as I went back home, I got a group of farmers, because we didn't have any money. My dad was a World War II veteran, kind of a disabled veteran. My mom worked like 3 or 4 jobs just to put food on the table. And getting out of Quincy, Florida was not even an option without the help of a lot of local friends. And a lot of the farmers put together a little kitty of money and sent me to Nashville so I could get an apartment and everything. And so that's what really started my trip. That's what got me to Nashville, was that contest.
Wow.
Wow.
How about that? Would you tell me about the first song you wrote? Kind of a subject of a Shakespeare project in high school.
I know exactly. I was not the studious type, as you know. We had a 6-week long, we were studying Shakespeare, and the theme was star-crossed lovers or something. And we were supposed to do all this research for 6 weeks and have all these footnotes and have this big, huge project. And I, of course, procrastinated and put it off until the morning that we had to turn it in. And I went into the auditorium and I wrote a song about star-crossed lovers. And when it came time for that class, Mrs. Sharon Laster, I still stay in touch with her today, my English teacher, I did that song and instead of the term paper, and she gave me an A, and I knew this was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. It's the only A I think I ever got.
Well, we are here to talk about the new album, and first album in 10 years. Tell us about it and your first single, and what other songs are standout tracks for you?
This is a side of me really no one's ever heard from or seen really, and it's really going back to Florida is like going back to my roots. And when I left Florida, I was doing North Florida was a crossroads of a lot of different musical styles. You could hear everything from Southern gospel to Southern rock and roll to funk, just killer funk music, to to classic country, which I got that from my dad who had a band, and so going back home, and Florida sort of has its own little music identity, and they call it trop rock, for lack of a better word. They kind of coined this phrase trop rock, and so I thought, well, man, I've got a bunch of songs. I've been writing about the area and about kind of incorporating some of those different influences, into this music, but keeping sort of a beachy feel, sort of steel drum, a little reggae feel, and I wanted something fun. I felt like I had covered faith, family, and the flag in my music. That's something that's always been sort of a staple in my music, but I hadn't really covered sort of the party crowd, the beach goer, and the retirees, and the people just coming down having a little umbrella drink, with their toes in the sand. And I thought, I'm ready to have a lot of fun. I'm just ready to show a more fun side of me musically. And so I got in touch with Paul Overstreet, who had an album, in a trop rock album. And it's called Somewhere in the Caribbean. And I've known him for like 30 years. And we got together, and he was kind of he coached me a little bit about what the music was sounding like, and so anyway, that's kind of what birthed the album. The Rest of It's Mine is the name of the album, and that was really coined by Paul. I told him, I said, man, I see all these people in the RV parks that they're not. These people are active. They got their bicycles, they got their kayaks, and they're retired. They're empty nesters. And I think they sold their houses so their kids wouldn't boomerang back around and got them an RV and they hit the road. I said, I want to send a message to that audience with a song. And he texted me back a whole chorus. The rest of it's mine, the rest of it's mine. Going to ride it out here where the sun always shines. And it went on from there, and we wrote the song, and it just captured the whole theme of the album. Another standout track that I personally like a lot. There's two really that I really like. The Laziest Man Alive is one of my favorite. It's I think I heard that or read that somewhere, that Mark Twain had said, my life's ambition really is to be the laziest man alive. And I thought, I think that's my ambition right now. And I really wanted to write something like that, so that people that were hitting that 9 to 5, sitting in a cubicle somewhere in the office, dreaming about kind of retirement, or dreaming about the island somewhere to relax and get outside. Wanted to kind of write that for them. And then the very last song I really like a lot is or second to the last song, a song called Hemingway. I'd spent a little time in Key West, and so a buddy of mine had just finished writing, or not writing, but he finished reading a book about Hemingway, and he just walked in one day and he said, man, I just read a book about Hemingway. And I was like, well, what was it like? He goes, man, the guy just came to life off the page, And of course, the songwriter brain in me, had to write that down. And I didn't know a lot about Hemingway, and he explained it. And so I felt like that was a good way to close out the trop rock portion of the album. And then, of course, because of the 30-year anniversary, I re-recorded Somewhere in My Broken Heart with an orchestra, which is something I always wanted to do. We kept the essence of the country album, but we re-recorded that and put beautiful strings. David Gates from the group Bread had written the string parts for me, and we just didn't have other orchestra parts, horns and percussion, things like that. So we had a maestro write the other parts for us around those string parts, and we just included that as like a bonus track for the 30-year anniversary. But the body of work, songs like My Day Off, Margarita Memories, they're all very much have that flavor of Florida, and just kicking back and relaxing, taking life kind of one day at a time.
I should have worn my tropical shirt today.
Oh, you should. Yeah. Well, if you grew up in Florida as I did, you dreamed of being a cowboy.
Oh yeah.
You dreamed about the mountains because it's always sunny and hot in Florida, and you always wanted. I always wanted to be a cowboy, which is why Billy the Kid. Talking about the bicycle and shooting the bad guys through my handlebars. That was our horse. That your bicycle was. So okay, that's why I wanted to come to Nashville too and be part of the country music scene. And but now where I'm at now, going back home, it's sure nice to be wearing flip flops and shorts again, and kind of covering, this part, going back to my roots really, both musically and physically.
Yeah. Well, quick question. You talked about Paul Overstreet. What are your impressions of Paul Overstreet as a friend, songwriter, and a performer?
Well, Paul is brilliantly humorous. See, country music. A lot of people, when I hear people say, "Man, this isn't country" or "That's not country," I've asked myself a lot of questions about what do they mean? What is country? What is country music? And it came down to a couple of things for me. I always felt like a steel guitar and a fiddle needed to be in a country song, because I always feel like the fiddle is like the female and the steel guitar is like the male, and they always kind of talk to each other in the song. And there's a lot of songs about relationship. And then most all country songs that I always liked, like going all the way back to like Hank Williams, they all had a certain kind of sense of humor to them. A little bit of tongue-in-cheek, little wink and a nod, sense of humor that only a lot of Southern people get. Not a lot of Northerners really get that. They a lot of times would take some of that sense of humor literally, and it's like, oh, you don't get the joke. It's kind of an inside thing. And Paul Overstreet is brilliant at that. And since I wanted to have a lot of fun on this album, I felt like I want to sit down and write with him and I kind of see what his mojo is, kind of see how he sees the world through that brain of his. Like the Randy Travis, "Honey, I don't care. I ain't in love with your hair. And if it all fell out, I'd love you." That's Paul Overstreet, man. And Randy Travis got that too. He got Paul's sense of humor. And that's something those are just a few elements that I always grew up with. The country music that I grew up with had those kind of elements in it. And Paul had written a lot of songs that I had sung in bars and coming along. And I've known him for 30 years, just never worked with him before, and so this was a chance to do that.
That's awesome. I appreciate your time. A couple questions.
Sure.
What do you want your fans and those hearing your music for possibly the first time to take away from you and your career?
Well, first of all, it's all about entertainment. I want people to really have fun, when they're listening to country music. I always like to have a little bit of a message. I like to layer a few of my writing, some of my writings. I like to put a couple of little layers in there that you have to listen to a few times and dig a little bit to sort of get another message out of it, And so hopefully there's songs like "Somewhere My Broken Heart" that's gotten people through some heartaches. There's songs like "Let Them Be Little" that have helped fathers be a little more patient with their kids. And there's a lot of young fathers coming up now that are listening to our generation of music. Take a listen to that one. It certainly woke me up, when it comes to parenting. And my kids parented me a lot more than I parented them, And so the one thing that is consistent throughout my music, and it wasn't intentional until I had the time to really look back and see, but it's to never lose the kid inside you. Don't grow up too fast.
Yeah.
My albums, "Young Man," "Men'll Be Boys," "I Miss Billy the Kid," "Let 'Em Be Little," that is a theme that runs throughout my music, is have fun and don't lose that inner child in you, because it's easy to do, especially in my case, growing up with a World War II dad. My dad wanted to grow me up quickly because in his mind it was a very dangerous world, and the quicker he could make a man out of me, the more chances he thought I would have of getting through life, And I always fought that, and my mom has the big young at heart. I get that from her, and so that's what I would hope the takeaway would be.
Yeah. And I love those songs about like "Men Will Be Boys." The difference is the size of their toys. I told you I was a fan.
Yeah, you do, man. That's exactly right, man. That's probably ultimately the message. It really is.
Well, a spontaneous question.
Yep.
We're here in the Wagon Master's room, backstage at the Opry.
Can you believe it?
And I met Porter Wagoner before. I don't know if you have or not.
I had.
But
yep.
What are your impressions of being in Porter's room and your impressions of Porter Wagoner?
Wow, just a lot of people know him for the suits and everything in showbiz. Of course, a great singer and a great songwriter, but the takeaway for me with Porter Wagoner is it is showbiz. Give people when they see you on stage, you know, I don't know that he would have liked to sing country music singers these days with t-shirts and jeans and their hats turned backwards. You can see you can see that on the street everywhere. He, you know, it was about, hey, give people, you know, something that they can't see anywhere else. You know, you know, have a show, look like a star. You know, showbiz, and that's my takeaway. It's not that you're better than anybody else. It's, again, it's about entertainment. You wait till you see the shirt I'm wearing tonight. It'd make Porter happy.
Very good, very good. Well, I really appreciate the time. You just don't know. I'm just blessed to get to meet you again, and after all these years, really looking forward to the show. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
I've got some liners here. I don't know if you want to cut them now or later.